occurrence. So occurrence rating is given here. So score the causes using the occurrence table. Now I'm going to share with you something very, very interesting. Now, if you see here, there is something called as a prevention. There is something called as a detection. In design decisions, prevention influences the occurrence score. Because if you put more of preventive method, the occurrence will come down. If you put more of detective controls, it becomes a basis for detection scores. Let me explain to you. Activity and information that helps to make decisions. Activity that confirms whether the decisions are right or not. Prevention is activity and information that helps make the decision, and detection is activity that confirms whether the decision were right or not. For example, if you have knowledge, experience, proven design, design standards, design regulations, existing technology, all that is preventive. Whereas component testing, simulation testing, accelerated testing, rig or lab testing, tolerance analysis, and stuff like that, these are all related to detection type. So prevention of potential failure modes, cause and effect. So state the design control activity that is currently in place to prevent the cause. This is the evidence. So here the prevention control is design based on earlier successful development, but with little or no market experience. This is the control we have because we are designing based on earlier design experience. That is the preventive control. Material is new, but there is an experience in successful comparable usage in the industry. They are also comparing with different materials used in the industry and making the design, and that is also a preventive control. Now, control and detection. Step number 4. What design control activity is currently in place and how effective it is. Control method, how do you know that the design had weakness? What control activities? I'm not going to read this, but I'll explain you. The control methods are: prevention is existing technology, proven designs, design guidelines, design standards. So this is the preventive mainly, of course. Detection means field testing, component testing, simulation studies, and all that is detection type of failure modes. So do not include quality checks during manufacturing. Generally, it is not a good thing to say, I check the quality and that is the control method. This is a note for you. Please do not include quality check during manufacturing as the detection control mechanism. So in detection, we can put both preventive controls and detection controls. In detection control, while it is saying that the material is new, but there is an experience of successful comparable usage in the industry, it is also the detection is a simulation and environmental testing is done at an early concept stage, and hence it is a detection control. So in a particular case, you can have both detection control as well as preventive control. Generally, it's very difficult to repeat these things, okay? So in generic product detection rating, you have this type of scoring, just like we had in severity, just like we had in occurrence and stuff like that. We are having in detections also. Then step number 5 is current risk. How do you assess the current risk? Now, this is a very, very important part. So let me explain this RPN calculation a little slowly. First is failure mode. Second is there can be multiple effects for a failure mode. Now, for each effect, you give a severity number. One effect may be less severe than the other effect because a failure mode can have multiple effects. Now, again, a failure mode, the causes are related to the failure mode. For one failure mode, there can be multiple causes. There can be multiple causes, and occurrence score is for causes. How frequently do they occur? For that failure mode, you can have the detection control also. You can have multiple detection control if that failure happens. For example, for this cause, you can have 2 types of detection. For this particular cause, you can have 3 types of detection. For every cause, they can have multiple detection controls. You can detect it in several ways. Now, for each of this effectiveness of the detection control, you give a number. Now, please observe me carefully. When you calculate the RPN, you should always take the highest severity. If you are taking the RPN, you should always take the highest severity. I'll quickly explain you. There is a failure mode, and there can be multiple effects for one failure mode. Then causes are related to the failure mode, and there can be multiple causes related to the failure mode. There can be a detection control. For a cause, there can be 1 or more detection control. For example, for the cause number 1, there is 1 detection control. For cause number 2, there are 2 detection controls. For cause number 3, there are 3 detection controls. So causes are related to failure mode. Detection control is related to the causes. So severity is 8. And for this highest severity, you should choose each and every occurrence number, and you should choose the lowest detection number. Highest severity number, lowest detection number. For example, if this detection is 6, okay, and this is 2, you should choose the lowest detection number. Okay, severity should be highest. If something can detect it very well, and there is another detection mechanism which you are using, which is not detecting is F, your risk increases. You have 2 detection mechanisms. One detects it very well, but the alternate detection is not detecting it well. For example, you're using a scanning machine as well as physical frisking. Scanning machine is a better detection mechanism rather than physical frisking. So if you're using 2 types of detection control, choose which will give you more risk, and that detection control which has got less scoring will give you more risk, and that is what we should choose. And hence you have this RPN number, and finally this is the RPN number.